The Book of 2 Chronicles, Dibri ha-Yamin Bet, Chapter 1. And Shelomah, son of David, strengthened himself over his reign. And Yahuwah his Elohim was with him, and made him exceedingly great. And Shelomah spoke to all Yisrael, to the commanders of the thousands and of the hundreds, to the judges and to every leader in all Yisrael, the heads of the fathers' houses. And Shelomah, and all the assembly with him, went to the high place that was at Gibborim, for Elohim's tent of appointment was there, which Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah, had made in the wilderness. However, David had brought up the ark of Elohim from Kiriath Ye'arim to the place David had prepared for it, for he had pitched a tent for it in Jerusalem. And the bronze slaughter place that Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, had made, he put before the dwelling place of Yahuwah. And Shelomah and the assembly sought it. And Shelomah went up there to the bronze slaughter place before Yahuwah, which was at the tent of appointment, and offered 1,000 ascending offerings on it. That night Elohim appeared to Shelomah and said to him, "Ask what I should give to you." And Shelomah said to Elohim, "You have shown great loving commitment to David my father, and have made me sovereign in his place. Now, Yahuwah Elohim, let your promise to David my father stand fast, for you have set me up to reign over a people as numerous as the dust of the earth. Now, give me wisdom and knowledge, so that I go out and come in before this people, for who is able to rightly rule this great people of yours?" And Elohim said to Shelomah, "Because this was in your heart, and you have not asked riches or wealth or esteem or the life of your enemies, nor have you asked long life, but have asked wisdom and knowledge for yourself, so as to rightly rule my people, over whom I have set you up to reign. Wisdom and knowledge are given to you, and riches and wealth and esteem I also give you, such as none of the sovereigns have had who have been before you, nor any after you have." And Shelomah went up to Jerusalem from the high place that was at Gibborim, from before the tent of appointment, and reigned over Israel. And Shelomah gathered chariots and horsemen, and he had 1,400 chariots, and 12,000 horsemen, whom he stationed in the chariot cities, and with the sovereign in Jerusalem. And the sovereign made silver and gold to be as stones in Jerusalem. And he made cedars to be as plenty as the sycamores which are in the low country. And Shelomah had horses imported from Mitzrayim, and from Kiu. The sovereign's merchants brought them from Kiu at a price. And they came up and brought from Mitzrayim a chariot for 600 pieces of silver, and a horse for 150. And so, for all the sovereigns of the Hittites and the sovereigns of Aram, they brought them out by their hand. Chapter 2. And Shelomah gave word to build a house for the name of Yahuwah, and a house for his reign. Then Shelomah enrolled 70,000 men to bear burdens, 80,000 hewing stone in the mountains, and 3,600 to oversee them. And Shelomah sent to Hiram, sovereign of Zor, saying, "As you did for my father David, and sent him cedars to build himself a house to dwell in, see, I am building a house for the name of Yahuwah my Elohim, to set it apart to him, to burn before him sweet incense, and for the continual showbread, and for the ascending offerings morning and evening, on the Sabbaths and on the new moons, and on the appointed times of Yahuwah our Elohim. This is for Yisrael forever. And the house which I build is great, for our Elohim is greater than all mighty ones. But who is able to build him a house since the heavens, and the heavens of the heavens are unable to contain him? Who am I then, that I should build him a house, except to offer before him? And now send me at once a man who knows to work in gold, and in silver, and in bronze, and in iron, and in purple, and crimson, and blue, and knowing to engrave with the skilled men who are with me in Yehudah and Jerusalem, whom David my father has prepared. And send me cedar, cypress, and algum logs from Lebanon, for I know that your servants know to cut timber in Lebanon. And see, my servants are with your servants, even to prepare plenty of timber for me, for the house that I am building is great and marvelous. And see, I have given servants to you, the hewers who cut timber, 20,000 cores of ground wheat, and 20,000 cores of barley, and 20,000 baths of wine, and 20,000 baths of oil. Then Huram, the sovereign of Zoar, answered in writing which he sent to Shelomah, Because Yahuwah loves his people, he has made you sovereign over them. And Huram said, Blessed be Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, who made the heavens and earth, for he has given sovereign David a wise son, knowing wisdom and understanding, to build a house for Yahuwah and a house for his reign. And now I have sent a skilled man, having understanding, Huram Abi, the son of a woman of the daughters of Dan. And his father was a man of Zoar, who knows to work in gold and in silver, in bronze, in iron, in stone and in wood, purple and blue, and in fine linen, and in crimson, and to make any engraving and to accomplish any plan that is given to him. With your skilled men and with the skilled men of my master David your father. And now the wheat and the barley, the oil and the wine which my master has spoken of, let him send it to his servants, and let us cut wood from Lebanon as much as you need, and bring it to you in rafts by sea to Yaffo, and you take it up to Yerushalayim. And Shelomah numbered all the men, the sojourners who were in the land of Yisrael, according to the census in which David his father had numbered them, and there were found to be 153,600. And he made 70,000 of them to bear burdens, and 80,000 hewers of stone in the mountain, and 3,600 overseers to make the people work. Chapter 3. And Shelomah began to build the house of Yahuwah at Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, where he appeared to his father David, at the place that David had prepared on the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And he began to build on the 2nd day of the 2nd new moon in the 4th year of his reign. And these are the foundations which Shelomah laid for building the house of Elohim. The length by cubits according to the former measure were 60 cubits, and the width 20 cubits. And the porch that was in front was 20 cubits long according to the breadth of the house, and the height was 120. And he overlaid the inside with clean gold. And the great house he paneled with cypress, which he overlaid with fine gold. And he carved palm trees and chainwork on it. And he covered the house with precious stones for comeliness. And the gold was gold from Parawayim. And he overlaid the house, the beams, the doorposts, and its walls, and its doors with gold. And carved cherubim on the walls. And he made the house of the most set apart. Its length was according to the width of the house, 20 cubits, and its width 20 cubits. And he overlaid it with fine gold, 600 talents. And the weight of the nails was 50 shekels of gold. And he overlaid the upper rooms with gold. In the most set apart house he made 2 cherubim of sculpted work, and overlaid them with gold. And the wings of the cherubim, their total length was 20 cubits. One wing was 5 cubits long, touching the wall of the room, and the other wing was 5 cubits, touching the wing of the other cherub. And the wing of the other cherub was 5 cubits, touching the wall of the room, and the other wing also was 5 cubits, touching the wing of the other cherub. The wings of these cherubim spread out 20 cubits, and they stood on their feet, and they faced inward. And he made the veil of blue and purple and crimson and fine linen, and worked cherubim on it. And at the front of the house he made 2 columns, 35 cubits high, and the capital that was on top of each of them was 5 cubits. And he made wreaths of chainwork, as in the speaking place, and put them on top of the columns. And he made 100 pomegranates, and put them on the wreaths of chainwork. And he set up the columns before the hekal, one on the right, and the other on the left, and called the name of the one on the right Yakin, and the name of the other one on the left Boaz. Chapter 4. And he made a slaughter place of bronze, 20 cubits long, and 20 cubits wide, and 10 cubits high. And he made the sea of cast metal, 10 cubits from one rim to the other, round all about. And its height was 5 cubits, and a line of 30 cubits measured around it, and figures like oxen were under it, all around it, 10 to a cubit, all the way around the sea. 2 rows of oxen were cast when it was cast. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, and 3 facing west, and 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. And the sea was set upon them, and all their back parts were inward. And it was a handbreadth thick, and its rim was shaped like the rim of a cup, like a lily blossom. It held 3,000 baths. And he made 10 basins, and put 5 on the right side and 5 on the left, to wash in them. In them they rinsed off what pertains to the ascending offering, but the sea was for the priests to wash in. And he made 10 lampstands of gold according to their ruling, and set them in the hekal, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. And he made 10 tables, and placed them in the hekal, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. And he made 100 bowls of gold. And he made the courtyard of the priests, and the great court, and doors for the court. And he overlaid these doors with bronze. And he placed the sea on the right side eastward over against the south. And Huram made the pots, and the shovels, and the bowls. So Huram completed doing the work that he was to do for sovereign Shalomah, for the house of Elohim. The 2 columns, and the bowl-shaped capitals that were on top of the 2 columns, and the 2 networks to cover the 2 bowl-shaped capitals which were on top of the columns, and 400 pomegranates for the 2 networks, 2 rows of pomegranates for each network, to cover the 2 bowl-shaped capitals that were on the columns. And he made stands in the basins on the stands, 1 sea and 12 oxen under it, and the pots and the shovels and the forks, and all their vessels. Huram, his master craftsman, made of polished bronze for sovereign Shalomah, for the house of Yahuwah. On the plain of Yarden, the sovereign had them cast in clay molds, between Sukkot and Zeradatha. And Shalomah made so large a number of all these vessels, that the weight of the bronze was not searched out. And Shalomah had all the furnishings made for the house of Elohim, and the slaughter place of gold, and the tables on which was the showbread, and the lampstands with their lamps of refined gold, to burn according to right ruling in front of the speaking place, and the blossoms, and the lamps, and the snuffers of gold, of perfect gold, and the snuffers, and the bowls, and the ladles, and the fire holders of refined gold. And the entrance to the house, its inner doors to the most set-apart place, and the doors of the hekal of the house were of gold. Chapter 5. And all the work that Shalomah had done for the house of Yahuwah was completed. And Shalomah brought in the set-apart items of his father David, the silver and the gold, and all the utensils, and he put them in the treasuries of the house of Elohim. And Shalomah assembled the elders of Yisrael, and all the heads of the tribes, the chief fathers of the children of Yisrael, in Yerushalayim, to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah from the city of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Yisrael assembled to the sovereign at the festival, which was in the 7th new moon. And all the elders of Yisrael came, and the Levites took up the ark, and they brought up the ark, the tent of appointment, and all the set-apart utensils that were in the tent. The Levite priests brought them up. And sovereign Shalomah and all the congregation of Israel who were assembled to him before the ark were slaughtering so many sheep and cattle that could not be counted or numbered. And the priests brought in the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah to its place, into the speaking place of the house, to the most set-apart place, under the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread their wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubim covered over the ark and its poles. And the poles were so long that the end of the poles of the ark were seen from the set-apart place, in front of the speaking place, but they were not seen from outside, and they are there to this day. There was not in the ark but the 2 tablets which Moshe put there at Horeb, when Yahuwah made a covenant with the children of Israel, when they came out of Mitzrayim. And it came to be, when the priests came out of the most set-apart place, for all the priests who were present had set themselves apart, there was none to watch by division. And the Levite singers, all those of Asaph, and Heman, and Yeduthun, with their sons and their brothers, stood at the east end of the slaughter place, dressed in white linen, having cymbals and harps and lyres, and with them 120 priests sounding with trumpets. Then it came to be as the trumpeters and singers were as one, to make one sound to be heard in praising and thanking Yahuwah. And when they lifted up their voice with the trumpets and with the cymbals and with the instruments of song, and giving praise to Yahuwah, for he is good, for his loving commitment is everlasting, that the house of Yahuwah was filled with a cloud, and the priests were unable to stand and perform the service because of the cloud, for the esteem of Yahuwah filled the house of Elohim. Chapter 6. Then Shelomah said, Yahuwah has said he would dwell in the dark cloud, but I have built you an exalted house, and a place for you to dwell in forever. And the sovereign turned around and blessed all the assembly of Israel, while all the assembly of Israel stood. And he said, Blessed be Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, who has filled with his hands what he spoke with his mouth to my father David, saying, From the day that I brought my people out of the land of Mitzrayim, I have chosen no city from any tribe of Israel, in which to build a house for my name to be there. Nor did I choose any man to be a leader over my people Israel. But I have chosen Jerusalem for my name to be there. And I have chosen David to be over my people Israel. And it was in the heart of my father David to build a house for the name of Yahuwah Elohim of Israel. But Yahuwah said to my father David, Because it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well in that it was in your heart. But you do not build the house for your son who comes forth from your loins. He does build the house for my name. Now Yahuwah has established his word which he spoke, and I have been raised up instead of my father David, and sit on the throne of Israel as Yahuwah promised. And I have built the house for the name of Yahuwah Elohim of Israel. And there I have placed the ark in which is the covenant of Yahuwah, which he made with the children of Israel. And he stood before the slaughter place of Yahuwah, in front of all the assembly of Israel, and spread out his hands. For Shelomah had made a bronze platform 5 cubits long, and 5 cubits broad, and 3 cubits high, and had put it in the midst of the court. And he stood on it, and knelt down on his knees before all the assembly of Israel, and spread out his hands towards the heavens, and said, Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, there is no Elohim in the heavens or on earth like you, guarding the covenant and loving commitment with your servants, who walk before you with all their heart, who has guarded what you promised your servant David, my father. Indeed, you have both spoken with your mouth and have filled it with your hand, as it is this day. And now, Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, guard what you promised your servant David, my father, saying, There is not to cease a man of yours before me, sitting on the throne of Israel. Only if your sons guard their way, to walk in my Torah as you have walked before me. And now, O Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, let your word come true which you have spoken to your servant David. For it is true, Elohim dwells with men on the earth. See, the heavens and the heavens of the heavens are unable to contain you. How much less this house which I have built? Yet shall you turn to the prayer of your servant and his supplication, O Yahuwah my Elohim, to listen to the cry and to the prayer which your servant is praying before you. For your eyes to be open towards this house day and night, toward the place you have said to put your name there, to listen to the prayer which your servant prays towards this place. And shall you give heed to the supplication of your servant and of your people Yisrael, when they pray toward this place, and hear from your dwelling place in the heavens, and shall hear and forgive? If anyone sins against his neighbor, and he has lifted up an oath on him to cause him to swear, and comes and swears before your slaughter place in this house, then hear in the heavens and act, and rightly rule your servants, repaying the wrong by bringing his way on his own head, and declare right the righteous by giving him according to his righteousness. And if your people Yisrael are smitten before an enemy, because they have sinned against you, They shall turn back and confess your name, and pray and make supplication before you in this house. Then hear in the heavens, and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and bring them back to the land which you gave to them and their fathers. When the heavens are shut up, and there is no rain, because they have sinned against you, and they shall pray towards this place and confess your name, and turn from their sin, because you afflict them. Then hear in the heavens, and forgive the sin of your servants, your people Israel, for you teach them the good way in which they should walk, and shall send rain on your land which you have given to your people as an inheritance. When there is scarcity of food in the land, when there's pestilence, or blight, or mildew, locusts, or grasshoppers, when their enemies distress them in the land of their cities, any plagues or any sickness, whatever prayer, whatever supplication is made by anyone, or by all your people Yisrael, when each one knows his own plague and his own grief, and spreads out his hands to this house, then hear from the heavens your dwelling place, and forgive, and give to everyone according to all his ways, whose heart you know. For you alone know the hearts of the sons of men, so that they fear you, to walk in your ways as long as they live in the land which you gave to our fathers. Also, concerning a foreigner who is not of your people, Yisrael, but who comes from a far land for the sake of your great name, and your strong hand and your outstretched arm, when they have come and pray in this house, then hear from the heavens your dwelling place, and do according to all which the foreigner calls to you for, so that all the people of the earth know your name and fear you, and do as your people Yisrael, and to know that this house, which I have built, is called by your name. When your people go out to battle against their enemies in the way that you send them, and they shall pray to you toward this city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name, then shall you hear from the heavens their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause? When they sin against you, for there is no one who does not sin, and you become enraged with them, and give them to the enemy, and they take them captive to a land far or near, and they shall turn back unto their heart in the land where they have been taken captive, and shall turn and make supplication to you in the land of their captivity, saying, We have sinned. We have acted crookedly and have done wrong. And when they return to you with all their heart and with all their being in the land of their captivity, where they have taken them captive, and they shall pray toward their land which you gave to their fathers, and the city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name, then shall you hear from the heavens, your dwelling place, their prayer and their supplications, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you. Now, my Elohim, I pray, let your eyes be open, and let your ears be attentive to the prayer of this place. And now arise, O Yahuwah Elohim, to your resting place. You in the ark of your strength, let your priests, O Yahuwah Elohim, be robed with deliverance, and let your lovingly committed ones rejoice in goodness. O Yahuwah Elohim, do not turn away the face of your anointed. Remember the loving commitment of your servant David. And when Shelomah had ended praying, fire came down from the heavens and consumed the ascending offering and slaughterings, and the esteem of Yahuwah filled the house. And the priests were unable to enter the house of Yahuwah, because the esteem of Yahuwah had filled the house of Yahuwah. And all the children of Israel saw how the fire came down, and the esteem of Yahuwah on the house. And they bowed their faces to the ground on the pavement, and did obeisance, and gave thanks to Yahuwah, saying, For he is good, for his loving commitment is everlasting. And the sovereign and all the people slaughtered slaughterings before Yahuwah. And sovereign Shelomah slaughtered a slaughtering of 22,000 bulls, and 120,000 sheep. Thus the sovereign and all the people dedicated the house of Elohim. And the priests were standing over their duties, and the Levites with instruments of the song to Yahuwah, which sovereign David had made to give thanks to Yahuwah, saying, For his loving commitment is everlasting. Whenever David praised by their hand, and the priests were blowing trumpets before them, and all Yisrael were standing. And Shelomah set apart the middle of the courtyard that was in front of the house of Yahuwah, for there he made ascending offerings and the fat of the peace offerings, because the bronze slaughter place which Shelomah had made was not able to contain the ascending offerings, and the grain offerings, and the fat. And Shelomah at that time observed the festival 7 days, and all Yisrael with him, a very great assembly from the entrance of Hamath to the Wadi of Mitzrayim. And on the 8th day they held an assembly, for they performed the dedication of the slaughter place 7 days, and the festival 7 days. And on the 23rd day of the 7th new moon, he sent the people away to their tents, rejoicing and glad of heart for the goodness that Yahuwah had done for David, and for Shelomah, and for his people Yisrael. Thus Shelomah finished the house of Yahuwah, and the sovereign's house, and all that came into the heart of Shelomah to do in the house of Yahuwah, and in his own house, he prosperously executed. And Yahuwah appeared to Shelomah by night, and said to him, I have heard your prayer, and have chosen this place for myself as a house of slaughtering. If I shut up the heavens, and there is no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, and my people upon whom my name is called shall humble themselves, and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their evil ways, then I shall hear from the heavens, and forgive their sin, and heal their land. Now my eyes are open, and my ears attentive to the prayer of this place. And now I have chosen and set this house apart for my name, to be there forever. And my eyes and my heart shall always be there. And you, if you walk before me as your father David walked, and do according to all that I have commanded you, and if you guard my laws and my right rulings, then I shall establish the throne of your reign, as I covenanted with David your father, saying, There is not to cease a man of yours as ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my laws and my commands which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other mighty ones, and bow yourself to them, then I shall pluck them from my land, which I have given them, and this house which I have set apart for my name I shall cast out of my sight, and make it to be a proverb and a mockery among all peoples. And this house, which has been exalted, everyone who passes by it shall be astonished, and say, Why has Yahuwah done thus to this land and to this house? Then they shall say, Because they forsook Yahuwah, Elohim of their fathers, who brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, and embraced other mighty ones, and bowed themselves to them, and served them. Therefore he has brought all this evil on them.